Hello, thanks for joining. My name is Anthony Chuli, Director of Product Marketing here at 250 OK, and today I'm joined by Sloan Simmons, Solutions Consultant, and Luke Martinez, our Solutions Architect. And we're going to talk about holiday readiness today with email marketing, and it's certainly a relevant conversation this time of year. We're less than 100 days out from peak season, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, and holidays are soon to be here. So with that, I wanted to open up the conversation today with the two gentlemen here and really talk about this whole concept of holiday readiness and peak season. And from an email marketer standpoint, this is a huge time of year. And it's really a make or break point for a lot of retailers, especially e-commerce, for their bottom line, right? It can represent nearly 30% of revenue for some companies. So with this high pressure and high demand and a pivotal time of year, I wanted to kind of walk through some of the things that marketers should be paying attention to or preparing for to optimize deliverability and email performance for this critical time of year. So Luke, I'll probably start with you, but just from the timing perspective, I know that we all like to procrastinate, but when should marketers really be thinking about these things and preparing strategy for this crucial time of year?
To me, it's a year-round effort. I think one of the big mistakes that marketers can make when they approach the holidays is they start digging really deep into their list, and they'll send email to people who maybe they haven't reached out to until the last holiday season. So if you think about it as a year-round effort to keep people engaged, to find meaningful ways to contact them with email, you don't have as many people on your list who are those long-term non-engaged people. So I think that if you've got relevant content, things to send people throughout the year, even if it's like at a quarterly cadence or a monthly cadence, find some way to keep them engaged, because as we all know, engagement's a pretty huge part of your reputation, and you want to ensure that you have the smallest amount of people in that non-engaged section of your list come holiday time. And there's really no good way to do that if you wait, until October to start reaching out to these people. So I really feel like it's a year-round effort, and it's not something that you can really start right, that late in the game.
And you touched on one point that I want to dive into a little bit deeper around data quality and the acquisition. And I feel like a lot of times in prep for these peak seasons, there's a lot of pressure from the top down on hitting revenue goals and sending more email and trying to squeeze as much revenue out of this crucial time period as possible. And so one of the things that I certainly have seen in the past is it becomes more of a relaxed standards of how data is collected, and perhaps there's co-appends or list purchasing or other questionable means to grow that base to target and generate more revenue. So Sloan, what are some tips or recommendations that you would share around what to do and what not to do as far as data quality and segmentation?
Yeah, so kind of bouncing off of Luke's point, when you're taking a strategy of holidays are coming, I've got to make sure I get everybody in and send to as many people as possible. It's one of the easiest ways to get blocked, to tank your reputation. So thinking of list acquisition and engagement kind of like you would strategize for a retail environment where you have that 6 months prior where you can start making sure you're prepared. So same thing with lists. So if you know that you want to drive more list acquisition to get prepared for the retail season, make sure that you have proper segmentation in place for all of those people that are signing up. If you're pushing up signups, handwritten emails that get typed in manually, there's a good chance you're going to get a lot of misspelled addresses.
Right.
That could spell a killer. So you want to be able to take care of those early on with segmentation and sending out slow volumes, introducing yourself, making sure you're still going, and people remember you so that you can filter those people out. And then when holiday shows up, your list is larger, but they're all engaged recipients already.
Right.
So your reputation's good.
I'd also try to leverage your other channels to get people back into email. Like if you have a chunk of people who maybe they bought something from an email campaign last Christmas. Christmas is coming around again. You haven't heard from them in the email channel in 9-10 months. Use their app activity, like a push notification or something like that, to ask them if their email address is still right. Like, are you still here? That's a good way to maybe maybe entice them with some kind of offer. Check your inbox because we sent you this. But it's sort of a more like kind of authentic, organic way to do some list hygiene before the holiday season without, using a list cleaning service or something like that. It's about like kind of naturally reintroducing them to email a few months
your own
before.
brand through re-engagement instead of paying somebody else to just go through and find a bunch of dead domains.
And it brings up a good point where, we're talking about email here, but it's more or less engage with your audience, your subscribers on the platform or channel that they're most suitable at, right? So you talked about app usage or last login date or purchase date. Those signals and data points are very compelling, but it may be something where email is just not their preferred channel to engage with the brand or to engage with commercial mail. And so I think there's certainly opportunity to basically what you're saying is vet and audit active subscribers versus inactive subscribers to try and grow a quality email list. But it's also important to remember that there's other channels out there, right? And if someone is highly engaged and leveraging the app, that's probably the best channel to target them at.
Right, yeah, you can use non-engagement in your email program to sort of drive your decisions on how to reach out to people.
Right.
So even lack of engagement in email can be something that you can action on. It doesn't mean, if people are long-term not engaged, don't love email. A lot of people send more email, and I don't know why. Like, you should take that as a signal that these are app people. I need to reach out to them on the website. I need to maybe it's even physical mailers or something like that. But if email isn't working, that's it's not great, but you can use that signal to drive your other, your decision making on how you reach out to these people.
Yep. One of the things I wanted to add is I think it's important for our audience to understand that mailbox providers and ISPs understand it's the holidays, but they don't necessarily take vacation or relax their standards during this time. And so while it's maybe one of those sensations where you're saying as a retailer or brand, well, everyone else is going to be sending 3 to 4 times the volume and everyone else is going to be sending more mail, we're going to kind of blend into the crowd. I think it's an important distinction to make that mailbox providers, they still care about the same things that they did during non-peak season and holiday. They still monitor their same. The machine learning and filters and algorithms don't change during this period. So dovetailing off that, I wanted to talk about volume specifically and frequency. And it's certainly one of the more noticeable changes from a subscriber standpoint of the amount of mail that we get during these times and leading up to these times. So Luke, I wanted to ask you, and Sloan certainly jump in as well, what are your recommendations of scaling volume and being prepared for kind of that spike, if you will, during these peak seasons, peak holidays?
Yeah, general rule of thumb, and most people shouldn't be doing this, but general rule of thumb is never double your volume in a single day. That would be really bad. It would scare the spam filters, and you'd have a bad time. Volume will increase. It always does, and it probably should. It's the right time. People are in purchase kind of mindset. It's the holidays. So I would say start kind of modestly. You don't want to just go, if you're a weekly mailer, you don't want to go to 2 messages 7 days a week. It's going to catch your recipients off guard. So I think making adjustments to your frequency kind of slowly and figuring out who's responding well to it and kind of taking it from there is the right call. People work on their content calendars and their campaign schedules, months in advance of the holidays, and they kind of, I feel like they're oftentimes too set in stone. Well, we said we were going to mail every day, and we started mailing every day, and it didn't go well, but we said we were going to do it, so we have to keep doing it. So you've got to be a little bit agile, respond to engagement rates, open rates, click rates, and all that stuff, respond to spam report rates and unsubscribe rates, and if they go through the roof, you need to dial it back. Like, don't just assume that your plan you made in October is going to be great all the way into January if the metrics say otherwise. So yeah, I'd say I do it gradually, increase your volume gradually, never more than double, and always watch the results and be ready to make changes, appropriately.
Yeah, and you already talked about this in the beginning, right? This goes back to preparedness. If you're working with a plan to ramp up the way you collect data, work with the same kind of plan to be able to send to that data as well. So you've got people on the other end. It's remembering that there's machine filters and there's human filters, and human filters are your subscribers, and those subscribers are legitimate people. What I like to always think about is, what does my inbox look like? Like, when I receive mail, what am I filtering out myself? What do I open up? What do I look for? What do I expect? And If somebody that I've purchased something from starts sending me 5 emails a day, whereas before I was used to seeing 1 a day or 3 a week, I'm probably not going to click on that unless something really catches my eye or I'm looking for something. And it is the season where people are looking for something, but it's also the season where people get really inundated and are more willing to hit the spam button. Report spam.
The one thing that I wanted to add that's important about volume consideration is what I call horsepower. And from an IP and domain perspective, it's really important for marketers and brands to understand what they have under the hood as far as IPs and infrastructure. If they have aspirations to scale volume, or perhaps they haven't audited what they have as far as sending infrastructure in many years, it's a really good time to kind of reflect and say, okay, and preparing for holiday season, do I have enough IPs in rotation to support my volume goals? And also, this isn't a time to change things, right? It's certainly one of those things where get into the holiday spirit, use emojis, use creative subject lines and themes, but it's not a time to change IPs. It's not a time to change your authenticated domains. And it's not a time to change kind of the template and feel of your brand. And the reason for that is, well, there's a lot of reasons, but primarily it's you're under the microscope. New infrastructure takes time to establish itself and warm, and you don't want to scare away your subscribers that are used to kind of the aesthetics and the feel of your brand in your emails during this time.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. Is like before, when you're prepping for the holidays, you got to audit your infrastructure. Make sure if you are going to almost double or sometimes even more than double your volume over the holiday season, like, do you have enough IPs? Yep. And you got to take care of that beforehand. It's likely a conversation you should have with your ESP. Depending on the spread of your list. If you're sending to all Gmail, you probably don't need a ton more IPs. If you're sending to a lot of domains in Europe that have lower connection and throughput limits, you might need more IPs. But your ESP should be a good resource for that. But assume you're going to be sending more volume and determine if you need help on the IP front.
Right. And using something like our tool to be able to watch how that's going as you add new items in. So if you're taking that step beforehand to add new IPs, to introduce a brand way early, so like a new domain early on instead of right before holiday, watch how people are reacting to it.
So talk about that a little bit more in closing here as we wrap up. The importance of the monitoring, the visibility, and also just what I call the remediation path. If something should happen, how do our tools help marketers identify and monitor, and then a clear path or direction of what to do to resolve issues?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of email isn't the most eye-catching. So being able to have some kind of software like ours to make everything visually appealing and digestible. So when you log in or you set up an alert and something is going on, you can pinpoint it right away. You don't have to look through text and data logs. You can actually take some time to instantly see a chart and say, okay, I need to target this domain that most of my subscribers are at. Let me start using this part of the tool, like analytics, to break down a list of people who are already engaging, and then I'll keep sending to them while I work on segmentation with all of the others to remediate. And then catch if I've started a new domain and I didn't set up authentication correctly, being able to catch that immediately and then act on it because you have a visual representation is really important.
Yeah, I think the alerting piece of our UI is crucial for times like this because it allows you to work smarter and not harder, and be aware of things if and when they happen, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in to this session on holiday readiness. I certainly hope that this holiday season is your most successful yet. And I wanted to thank both of you for your time.
Of course.